Hello, good people. What's up? David Taub here, coming to you from Gilbert Central, San Diego, California. How are you? Hope all is well. I've been getting lots of emails that you're really liking the progressions that we're putting up, and so I wanted to give you another one just to get you started on this and have you starting making your own and follow these templates. And I want to do some chord comping or substitution to give you some other ideas when you're playing your progressions. So let me show you another progression right now, and let's start off by using 7th chords. Okay, I'm going to play an A7th at the 5th fret bar chord, okay, on the low E string, A7th, and then we're going to go to a D7, which is at the 5th fret but on the A string root. Okay, and then we're going to go up to the E7, okay, which is at the 7th fret, A string root. So it's a 1, 4, 5. 1, 4, 5. What most music is built off of, right? That we've heard so many times before, the 1, the 4, and the 5 chord. So let's do a 12-bar progression, maybe a shuffle blues kind of thing. 12-bar shuffle blues using these 7th chords, okay? Now, if you don't know the 12-bar pattern, go to our lesson that's a few modules up from this one on the 12-bar repeating pattern, because you're staying on each chord a certain number of bars or measures. The 1 chord first is 4, then the 4 chord for 2, the 1 chord for 2, the 5 chord for 1, the 4 chord for 1, 1 chord for 1, and the turnaround 1. Okay? So if you're not familiar with that, this is going to be hard for you, so go back and watch that module first, okay? So we're going to play, the 12-bar pattern with the A7th, D7th, and E7th, okay? But let's make it a shuffle. So we're going to play something like this. That was 4 bars right there. Now what I'm doing is I'm doing a couple things to jazz it up a little bit. With 7th and 9th chords, you can, and minor 7s too, I like doing it, you could half-step slide them around and they still work. So I'm kind of doing a one end, like a pickup note going into that first full strum. And that adds that little bit of za-za-zoo, that little bit of coolness. And we could do it on the D7 too. See? So it's like an 8th note. One end. One end. Okay? I like doing that with 7s and 9s chords and 13s and sliding them around because, again, it's little embellishments that really add so much to your playing. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to play the whole progression one time through, and then you'll see what I'm talking about. So it starts on the A7, and here we go. 2, 3, 4. Okay, there is our 7th chord shuffle. Okay, let me show you a few of the things I was doing there to make that a little bit more interesting. One, of course, is I was sliding half steps on those 7th chords on the A and on the D. The other thing I'm doing is I'm doing that chucking. If you don't know how to chuck, that's an absolute must for guitar players. That muted downstroke. So I suggest you visit the chucking lessons in the strumming section of the website, and you'll learn how to do that. That's a must. You gotta. That's really important to add interest to your playing and that rhythmic kind of embellishment. Here's a strum I was doing. Slow down. Then I went to the D7. Now I go to E7. Back to the A7. Now the turnaround. Okay, so it's that real shuffly kind of feel we're playing, very bluesy. Okay, now when I went to the 5 chord, I did that little pop, pop, pop. Very, very common. Again, see, with 7th and 9th chords, you have those half steps that you can move around, and it all still works. So that's that I call the half step rule. So you get that. So, and you could throw in more slides. You could do. And there's the turnaround. The turnaround, which is a 1 measure long, 1 bar. I just went from the 4 with that half step again. So I'm going from the D, E flat, E7. Okay? Another turnaround I could do is you could just stay on the 5 chord, like when it goes. See how that turnaround I stayed on the 5 chord. Or you can substitute. Maybe you can do, instead of doing a 7th chord, I'll play this 7 sharp 9 chord, which I like very much for turnaround. On that, that's that altered chord that some might know as the Jimi Hendrix chord. That's a 7 sharp 9. So on the turnaround, that chord would sound like. I really like that. Sounds good, that real. Okay. Now you can play this slow, you can play it fast, but this is the basic 1-4-5 that's so common in music. And you want to get good at this real shuffly kind of rhythm. Really feel that. Get into the groove, lay back in the pocket. I didn't slide that time, but I'm going to slide now. See, mix it up. Keep the listeners guessing. 5 chord, 4 chord, 1 chord, 7 sharp 9 turnaround. Slide each time. Change the strum a little bit. Turn around. Okay, so there's so many things that you could do with a 1-4-5. It's just endless. You know, people, oh, 1-4-5. I mean, you could really jazz it up and make it sound cool. Let's change some of the chords or comp, substitute. Let's say in the D, when I go to the D, instead of going to a D7, let's go to a D9 chord. Which I love that chord. If you don't know how to play a D9, you're going to want to learn. Go to our video chord library. You can see what that chord looks like. Or in the written lessons section, we have drawings of these chords in the chord review. D9, I could even make it a D13 by adding my pinky. Just by adding the pinky right there. So I'm going to go from the 7th to the D9, and maybe I'll go to the E9. Now listen to it sound like this. Stay on that 7th chord for the 1. Shuffle. Here comes a D9. Now I go up to E9. Let's do that again. That was good. I like that. Add to the 13th. E13. Okay? You see all the different interests you could do just by finding cool chord substitutions. For a basic 1-4-5, there I was playing the E9, add that pinky on the high, a whole step away on that high E string, that's an E13. Right? And then back to the 7. You can end it with that half step again. Very common. No, you always hear that flat 2 to the 1 when you end stuff in the blues, right? So there's with 9s and 13s. I could do different strums. I mean, it is so endless. Here's a strum with all downstrokes. Downstrokes and chucks. Sound good on the 9 chord. 13. Now vary it a little bit next time. Okay. The 9 chord on the turnaround is a nice chord too. You get that real James Brown kind of thing when you get that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, bum, bum, you know. The real James Brown kind of started that, you know, that whole thing. It was kind of cool when you get the whole band accenting at the same time. Really tight. He had like the tightest band in the business for, it's kind of before my time, but from my studies of music, from what I understand, James Brown band, I think even Sly Stone played early on with him, and Bootsy Collins, perhaps. But he supposedly had like that was his thing, the tightest band in the business. Like those guys would go to accents and he would call it out, and they would all be together, just right on top of everything all the time. That's pretty cool when you hear a band really tight like that. That's kind of an old example, but that comes to mind every time I hear that. You know, that real James Brown kind of thing, right? Okay, so I want you to practice these shuffle rhythms. Okay, and then substitute your 7s, your 9s. I mean, I could do it with 13th chord. I could even like turn it into a jazz swing by using, like, I'll use an A 13th chord. Right? And listen now, I'll make it sound swingy, but I'll do still the 1, 4, 5. Okay, there I was using a little bit jazzier chord, a little 13th off the low E string root, and I was kind of hopping off of the root. Bam, boom, ba, na, na, 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 bam, boom, ba, na, na. You know, and then I did a little walk down. It's kind of cool, kind of jazzy. So it just shows you how much that you could do with a simple 1, 4, 5 shuffle or blues or a little bit on a hoppy jazzy side, right? So just don't play that always, you know, like I always see everyone do. Certainly learn that, because that's important to use, but you could do so much in addition to that and embellish it, you know what I mean? So really experiment and get creative and try different chords and go for it, and use those half steps when you're doing 7s and 9 chords and whatnot. So enjoy that. Play good rhythm. That's one of the 5 Ks, one of the 5 real important things you need to do as a guitar player, I feel, is you have to be able to play good rhythm. Remember, if you're just a guy who wants to solo all the time, you know, in my opinion, because you're playing rhythm so much, you know, and you're only soloing for a small part of the time, your lead skills are really only ever going to be as good as your rhythm skills. Alright, so really get your rhythm and your timing dialed in. That's so critical. And watch more of our lessons on this subject, nextlevelguitar.com. We will see you in the next module. Rock on and have fun and practice the right things. Develop that ear. Don't disappoint me now. I know you can do it.